In today's video, we're going to show you how to add big power to your A90 Supra by adding a pure 800 turbo. Hey, this is Bryan. Thanks for watching Kies Motorsports. If you like our videos, give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. You may recognize the car behind me because it is Supra Officers, and today we're going to add some super power to his Supra. In addition to the pure 800 turbo that we're going to be installing, we're doing an Ecutech tune, but that's going to be in a later video. And while we're this far, we're going to do some preventative maintenance by adding a MISHIMOTO Oil Catch Can. Like I said, while we're kind of down in that area, we have the intake off, we have one of the turbo lines off. Makes sense to do this at the same time. So with that, let's get the old intake and turbo out and install a new one. Now for today's project, we typically like to put everything on the lift, but we know that a lot of you are going to be doing this on your back in your garage. So today, we're gonna do it on our backs in the garage. So as you can see, I have my race ramp here under the wheels. We have one on this side, one on that side, and that's pretty much all the clearance you're going to need. 99% of what we're going to be doing today is going to be from the top over there. So make sure that your fender is well protected. And with that, let's get started. First part of the process is to remove your stock intake. So what you wanna do first, just click up this little tab right there. We're going to detach our mass airflow sensor. Then you have a flathead right here. We're gonna carefully twist this off like that. Then once that is nice and loose, push it to the side. And there's a grommet here, and there's a grommet down kind of in the middle. You're just gonna get it and very carefully pull straight up, just like that, and then you can set this in a safe place. Then you can use your flathead and you can loosen your other hose clamp down here. And then you can take this upper portion off. This is just going to slide off just like that. Now when you go to reinstall this, to make sure that it's in the correct orientation, what you want to do is look for this little half circle cut out. And if you look over here, you'll notice that there's another half circle cut out right there. So you want to make sure that those match up and everything will be properly aligned. Then what you're going to do is remove the engine cover if you haven't done so already. It's just held in by 4 little rubber grommets. So if you look on the back here, there's one up here, one over here, one over here, and one over here. And when you go to reinstall it, all you really need to do is just look for the oil cap and line that up, and pretty much everything else will fall right into place. All right, so now we need to remove the rest of our inlet here. So if you look over here, there is a little vacuum connection. So what you need to do, if you look up here, I'll demonstrate on here, there's basically a clip on the top and a clip on the bottom. And what you do is you squeeze on these ridged sections, and then you just very slowly, very carefully pull it off. Okay, so then once you have it off, to get it back on, all you need to do is just snap it back into place. So same exact thing down here, except you're not really gonna be able to see what I'm doing because it's very tight and I'm not gonna be able to see what I'm doing. Okay, so pop it off like that. So then the bottom of this, there's a little C-clip that holds it onto the turbo. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull it off, and then once we have this off the car, then I'll go back and I'll show you what I did. But basically you can grab the end of the C-clip and you can pull it out. You can typically do it without any tools, which makes it really nice. Okay. Pull it out just like that. And before you can pull this out, there is a little wire on here. And you can just release the clip. And then we'll pull this out. All right, so basically this is the part that I just undid. So it's basically on this little portion on the turbo. And what I did is I reached down below here. I'm gonna push it on really good so it's gonna be hard to get off. And then what you can do is you just pull it out just like that and it's going to lock into place. You'll notice that the end starts over here and then it ends up over there. And then once you've done that, all you need to do is slide it off. Now when it goes to reinstalling, what you do is you just take this and you push it in, you lock it in place. Then when you slide it on, it's just going to automatically lock and you'll be good to go. So with that, I'm gonna take it back off and we'll continue with the removal of the turbo. Okay, once you've done that, we are going to disconnect our wastegate actuator. So you pop up that little clip right there and then you can press on it like a lever. It's gonna pop out like that. And then I'm going to release this clip from here. And there's one more connection down here. It's gonna be really hard to see. And this is your PCV heater. Now, with the new pure inlet, you will not need to reinstall this. You will have to have it programmed out. Now, if you're using Ecutech or boot mode, this is super easy to code out so that you won't have any check engine lights or anything like that. So we're gonna take this, we're just gonna route it over here so it stays out of the way for a minute. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to disconnect this line over here. And we're going to take our flathead screwdriver. There's another C-clip right there for our PCV valve. This is going to come off. And then if you look up top here, there's one more connection. So we're going to take this off as well. Now what we're going to do, we're going to reach down here with a 13 mil. And you're going to loosen your downpipe clamp. Make sure you get this nice and loose. Okay, if that's tight at all, you can just pop it up, break that seal. And then what we're going to do, we're just going to slide this down off the downpipe, just like that. So it's just going to hang out right there. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to get the charge pipe out of the way. We're not going to fully remove it. We're going to slide this bolt out. I'm going to get this one. I'm not sure if I said it or not, but it's a T30. Then once you've done that, I'm just going to pull that out just to give us a little flex. Then we're going to come down here, same thing. If you just grab one of these little corners that sticks out, you can, so you don't have to pull it off all the way like I just did, but you can just take that and just wiggle it out of the way. What I am going to do is I'm going to get my clip here set back up for when I go to reinstall the pipe so that it goes back on nice and easy. Okay, next you're going to need a T45, and this is going to be a little tough to show you, but basically there's a little support bracket that supports the underneath of the turbo. So what you want to do is just take your T45 and remove the two bolts that hold it to the block. And then once I get this off, I'll show you off the car, once we have the turbo out, where everything bolts up. Here's bolt number one. That's what that looks like, and it is a T45. I'm gonna go back in there and grab the other one. Now, when I pull this out, you're gonna see that we have the option to take either two out or one. It's typically easier to take the two out than just the one, just because of what you have access to and all. You know, I'm working on that second T45, and there's number two. So now what we're going to do is we are going to start removing the coolant and oil lines from the turbo. Can get a little bit messy, so make sure you have plenty of microfibers or paper towels. And then we also have this little gallon jug here and a little funnel. Sometimes you go to undo these lines and not much comes out, and sometimes you take a shower. So what we're gonna do, you're a pro at these C-clamps now. You're just gonna undo it like that. So that wasn't all that much, but still it's better than sitting in your underbelly tray. All right. Nice. Now when you follow this coolant line, it's going to go down here, and then it's held in with a T30. So right now we're going to take our T30 and you can remove it. Now when you go to put these back in, they get torqued down to 8 Newton meters. And they're very tiny, just like that. All right, so this is our coolant line. As you can see, always just run your hand along it, make sure that there's nothing else, so that is the only one there. While we're down here, we could follow this oil line. So this is going to go down this way, goes behind your inlet, and it goes right over here. So if you look right there, there's another T30. So at this time, I'm going to remove that. Now, this is an oil line, so you want to make sure you get some kind of microfiber towel under here. You shouldn't really have too much leakage, but it's always possible that you get a little. Okay, there's number 2. Okay, so then you just very carefully make sure you have a towel under here. Just wiggle back and forth, and then this will come right out. Okay, just like that. So we just got a couple drops, nothing major. Now the next line is going to be very difficult to show. It is the coolant line. It's way back here. Now if you watched our video when we did the M340i G20 turbo video, we can link that below and above just for reference. What you want to do, there's a T30 in the back, and then there's a T30 by the downpipe that is kind of similar to this little clip up here, if you remember this clamp from when we did the front coolant line. So with that, I'm going to remove those 2 T30s for the coolant line. Okay. So there's the one that was on the end. Okay, there's bolt number 2. Now when you pull this out, coolant is going to come out. So it's kind of inevitable. So what we would recommend is get a pan, slide this under your car, make sure that it's positioned in a good spot. And then what I would do is I would get one of these have like lead in them or something, the moldable funnels, and just try to shoot as much of that coolant in that pan as you can. So with that, I'm gonna use 4 arms to try to do all this by myself, but we got it. All right, so then, just like the other one, it's gonna take a little bit of coolant here. All right, so it has finally stopped after about 5 minutes. And yeah, it went pretty much right in the pan, which is nice. Let's pull it out and see how much we got. There you go. Not bad, not bad. I have no idea how much fluid this is, but I'd say maybe 3/4 of a gallon, maybe. Okay, last but not least, again, this is gonna be a little bit hard to show because we're not doing it on the lift. There is one oil line that goes in the bottom, so make sure you have a microfiber towel to make sure that nothing is going to get leaked on. But if you actually want to come over here, if you look at the bottom of that right there, bottom of the turbo, you'll be able to see the 1 T30. So there's 1 T30 here, and then if you just follow the line, there's another one to the left at the end of it. So with that, I'm going to remove it. And with these, like I said before, they're all torqued down to 8 Newton meters. Once you break the initial seal, you can pretty much do it by hand. It's super easy. All right, so now I'm taking the turbo line out of the block. So we already had it loosened from the turbo side. So I broke this, and there's our next screw again. Microfiber is in place. Pull that out, and there's not really all that much oil leaking, so that's nice and good. So at this point we have that line's off, the oil line. Our oil line up top is off. We have our coolant line to the right, we have our coolant line to the left. Really all we need to do now is just take off these nuts, and the turbo is gonna come out. There's no additional heat shielding or anything you need to remove. So let me grab my other socket, and then we'll start taking the turbo off. All right, so now what we need to do is we need to remove these nuts here. So there's 3 on this side and then 3 on this side. I'm gonna start where it's far away, so it's a little more awkward to get to. And we just have 2 left. All right, and then we are down to our last one. So make sure you are ready to support the turbo when this one is off. All right. So when you're doing this, never grab the wastegate linkage, or you could break it, and then you'll have to buy a new one. So whenever you're doing this, just make sure you're pretty much just holding it in this general area. You can grab onto the inlet if you're careful as well. All right, here's my last nut. Okay. You can wiggle this off just like that. My line is a little bit caught. We're okay. All right, there we go. Now, when you're doing this, make sure that you take your old gaskets off and throw them right in the trash. You wanna make sure that you're using new ones. You're already this far, so you don't wanna cheap out on something small like this and get an exhaust leak and have to do it all over again. So spend the however many dollars, it's pretty cheap, and then just make sure you do it right the first time. All right, so with both turbos out, you can see that there is an incredible difference. So if we take a look at the cold side, look at this little baby compressor wheel. And then look at the pure. Look how awesome that is. That is where you're gonna get a lot of your power. And then if we flip it over to the exhaust side, you'll also see the other side is a massive difference as well. Now, one of the cool things about pure turbos, as you can see, it's an OEM housing. So what that means is it's going to be direct fit. You don't have to alter any of your oil or coolant lines or anything like that. It is direct plug and play. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to swap out our O-rings and switch over the line. So you guessed it, there's a T30. So I'm gonna remove this. It's pretty cool how this turbo was designed. So as you can see, this one, wiggle this out. Oops, sorry. You okay?
Yeah, are you okay?
Ow, you hurt me. I accidentally just punched our new camera and now I'm bleeding.
Why are you so angry?
Got anger management problems. All right, so this one goes on top. This one goes underneath. May want to have a microfiber so you don't do what I just did. All right, so this is gonna go underneath. And then with this one, it's really cool how they did it. Let me actually just clean that off a little bit. So if you look here, you can see that you have to rotate it and then you're able to pull it out. So when you go to put it in, you put it in like that and then you twist it and it locks it in place. To remove it, you just twist it all the way. And I'm gonna try to not punch the camera this time. And then it pops out just like that. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to replace all of these gaskets. Again, while you're here, it's a good idea to swap them all out. And then I'll be back with you for the install. This part's pretty self-explanatory. Just take off the old gasket, throw it away, and put on a new one. And we have our new gaskets on. So that one goes there. And this one goes here. And this one goes on top of here. Then you can take your T30. You might want to tighten it down just a little bit. And then we're going to torque it down to 8 Newton meters, which is not very tight. So you don't want to go crazy when you're hand tightening. I'm just going to get it snug so we don't have to twist it a bunch of times with a torque wrench. Okay. And that's it. That side's done. Now what we're going to do is we are going to flip the turbo upside down. It may leak a little bit. So we're going to take this line here. Pop that out. You guessed it, new O-rings. Okay, then you're gonna take this after you replace the O-rings. You're gonna pop that in there. You're gonna grab your T30 and you're gonna torque it down once again to 8 Newton meters. Okay, that is done. Now we need to transfer over the wastegate. So we're gonna put it down on its face. Put it down on its face. Next we need to remove the wastegate actuator and put it onto the new one. So just take a flathead, try not to shoot it across the room. And you're gonna do that. And then we're going to take, let's see what this is here, a T20, and you're going to remove the 4 little tiny bolts that hold this in over here. Okay, so now you need some kind of pliers. We are going to carefully lift that off of there. And then for whatever reason, they put this metal clip thing in here. But if you take some kind of like vice grips or something, you can just kind of wiggle it out. It's a little bit difficult when your hands are covered in oil, but just keep working at it and then that'll come out as well. So just be careful when you're pulling that out, that's all. Okay, so then this is gonna go, you guessed it, in the exact same spot. And then make sure that you have this metal thing lined up the same way it was before. It's gonna clip in super easy. You can get that little C-clip that we removed from the other side. Get that and push it in. Sometimes it helps if you use a flathead screwdriver. Just don't point it at you, because if it slips off, you're gonna be in the hospital. That's not good. Then take your T20. We're gonna put these in here. Now for this next part, we're gonna show you how to install the MISHIMOTO Oil Catch Can. Now, you do not have to take your turbo out to do this. What you do have to do is you have to take your charge pipe off, your intake, and then you just take that little inlet piece off the turbo, and then you're gonna get access to the line. So if you look down here, there is this little flimsy line right here. So what we need to do is we need to remove this. So this is a T30, as you'd imagine by now. Everything's a T30. I'm gonna take this off. I'm just gonna take this very carefully, wiggle it out just like that. And then I'm just gonna put this back here so I don't lose it. Now what you're going to do is you're gonna take a heat gun, and you're going to heat up the hose here like that. Try not to burn yourself. And then you're gonna pull it off once it gets soft enough. So right there, wasn't soft enough. And if it starts to break or anything on you, we can cut it off. It's not a huge deal. It's gonna be a lot easier with the plastic softer anyway. All right, so what I'm gonna do to make it a little bit easier, since the plastic is, super brittle at this point, don't stab yourself. There we go. Boom, this is what you need. And then we're gonna do the same thing on the other side and try to not stab ourselves. So then what you want to do is you want to take the piece that looks like this. It's going to go into the block, and you're going to slide this in like that. And for a general orientation, you might need to tweak it a little bit, but it's going to basically be so that this hole is going to be pointing down at this one here. And then once you've done that, we're going to tighten this up right here. Make sure that when you tighten it that you're not interfering with this hole here. You don't want to accidentally block yourself or anything like that. And then also, MISHIMOTO gives us a new O-ring, so we're going to go ahead and swap that out while we're at it. And then you're going to take the other end, looks like this. We're going to get our little clamp ready. You're going to pop it in just like that. Again, it's possible that you might need to shift it over just a little bit, but that's going to get you pretty much in the right spot. And then we can tighten this back up. So then what you want to do is on the bottom of your oil catch can, we're going to take this out. We're just going to do all the preparation stuff up front. And then there's this little quick connect fitting. We put some Teflon tape in it. You're going to just put that in there, like so. You're going to tighten that up. Okay. Once you've done that, we're going to just remove this part of the catch can so that we can get it where we need it. And if you haven't done so, what you need to do is you need to secure the catch can to this plate right there, just by using these little bolts right here, and then we can tighten these 3 up. Then you're going to have 2 pieces that look like this. Again, you're going to want to use a little Teflon tape on there. We'll tighten that up. Do the other side. Like that. Okay. All right, so now that we have this pre-assembled, it's going to get installed right about here, but to do so, I'm going to do it from underneath the car so you have a better idea of what is going on. So let me hop down there, and basically what's gonna happen is this is going to slide through the metal, and then it's going to get bolted up to here. There's a cutout, it looks kind of like this, in the piece of the frame, or I guess it'd be a subframe technically. And this is gonna slide through, and then it's gonna get bolted together like that, and it's gonna fit in there really nice. So I'm gonna slide under, and we'll show you from the top. Okay, first thing we need to do is take the piece that looks like this. And remember, the flat side is actually gonna get pressed into the inside of this. So you're gonna feed this up and inside. Might be a little bit difficult for you to see. And then what I would do is I would just hold it with one finger. Then you're gonna take the other portion here, and this is why we took the can off. And this is gonna slide up just like this. Now, what I would recommend doing is get one of the holes lined up and just lightly hand twist this in. It's a 10 mil. Now get it pretty snug. Then you can rock the other side up. Might need to push from behind. And you can start to put the other bolt in. So at this point, what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you where the lines go. We're not gonna fully hook everything up because we wanna make sure that we still have plenty of room to move this charge pipe around as we're navigating how to get it in with the new turbo. So we're gonna leave it like this for just a minute. I'm gonna come up, we're gonna put the turbo in. I'll show you where all the lines go, and then we'll keep going. Okay, so now you're going to take the shorter of the two pipes, and we're going to reinstall this with our T30. We're gonna torque it down to 8 Newton meters. And the reason we're doing this before we install the turbo is because it's a little bit more difficult to get to. But we're gonna just do it now and make it easy. Okay, that is torqued and ready to go. This one's gonna go over the charge pipe. We don't wanna really do anything else with the catch can at this point on that side. So at this time, let's get our gaskets. We're gonna put the gaskets up, and then we're going to install the turbo. Okay, so now we're gonna get our gasket. We're gonna slide that on like that. Then I'm gonna do the same with the other one. Okay. All right, so then we're gonna get our turbo. Just gonna swing it down here. Just be careful because it is kind of heavy. And again, don't hold any of the wastegate linkage. And, push my line back here. I'm trying to line up my downpipe on my turbo. I'm just gonna hand thread a nut on here so nothing falls off. And what you want to do now is you want to just start to make sure that everything is correctly positioned and whatnot. So for this, over here for this line, I'm gonna put it under my new catch can line. And I'm gonna press that into place. This over here is lined up, but the big thing I need to do, because we didn't take the downpipe off, we just need to make sure that that is all correctly positioned. Now the cool thing is, because the downpipe has a little flex, we can kind of get it to go where we need it.
You want to say something? Or it's up to you.
Okay, so it looks like we're pretty much lined up with our downpipe. So yeah, at this point, we're fine on the downpipe line up. At this point, we can start to tighten everything down. So let me just start by hand threading all of these little nuts here. Again, we always use new ones every time we do this. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna torque all of these 10 mils down to 18 Newton meters. All right, for the downpipe, we're gonna put our V-band back on. The trick to putting a V-band on is to make sure that pop this off for you for 1 second. The trick is you wanna make sure that everything is lined up. So if you look at it, everything is pretty much perfectly seated. You shouldn't have to be aligning it at this point. You should basically get it aligned. And then when you go to put this on, it's gonna snap into place, and then we can tighten this down. So now I'm gonna tighten this down with a 13 mil. Then we're gonna torque this down to about 19 Newton meters. Okay, so now back to the catch can. We're going to get this hose and we are going to feed it behind the oil line right there. Just want to reach behind here, pull it down just like that. And this is just going to hang out over here. This side, if I can get this out of the way for you enough, this side right here is going to go in the back, and that's going to slide on and get clamped. And then this one is going to go over the charge pipe. But before we can do that, we're just going to take our charge pipe and clip it in, and that way we'll be able to see what we're doing. And then we'll get the rest of this all hooked up. All right, so I'm going to take my little hose clamp. I'm going to put it on here. And you can take this and just slide it on all the way. And then you can tighten that up with a flathead. And you can take the other side and slide that on. As we did before, tighten up that little hose clamp. Now this one is going to be very difficult for you to see, but you just do the same thing you did on the other side there. Now the reason that it's a really good idea to have a catch can on a car is, especially with these cars that are direct injected, the fuel is getting directly injected into the cylinder, so they call it direct injection. Where most cars, you'll actually have the fuel go in through the valves, and what happens is the fuel hits the valves, and every time you're spraying your fuel, it's actually cleaning your valves, and it's gonna keep your car running really nice. Well, what happens is your car, the PCV valve, is dumping used nasty oil, and it's actually recirculating it back into your intake, and then it's dumping it on your valves, and you have nothing to clean it off. So by adding a catch can, it's gonna collect all that crap, and you can easily remove it and dispose of it properly. Now what I really like about the MISHIMOTO design is, you know, it's down there, but you don't have to worry about unscrewing it and getting to it. You see, it comes with this little quick release, so I'm gonna just press that in when it's time. But as you'll see over here, it actually has a drain plug, so it's gonna put it out pretty much under the, kind of by like the wheel well area. So instead of having to unscrew this, all you need to do, maybe when you're changing your oil or so, is you can just take this little bolt out, and it's gonna drain all of that nasty oil, and it's gonna protect your engine. So I'm gonna head under the car, I'm going to thread this up, I'm gonna install this, and then as you remember, I left that one plate a little bit loose, so I'm gonna tighten up those two 10 mils now that we have the charge pipe in and everything is locked in place. Okay, tighten these up here. All right, those are good. Charge pipe's out of the way. I'll just lift this up. Twist it on like so. All right, great design by MISHIMOTO. Okay, so now we could take this fitting here. It's gonna snap into place and just gonna get held like that. So then we're going to not be able to put this up right this second. Actually, yeah, what the heck? We'll do it, why not? So something that's going to be a little bit different is when you go to install this, there's actually a nut and a bolt that are going to get fed through like so, where before we actually had
an 8 mil, I believe. So with that, let me get this other plate up here, and then we'll take it from there, and we'll show you how to install it. Okay, so now that that's in there, we're gonna take this, it's gonna get rocked under the plastic. Then you could take your stiffening plate, which is the metal one. This is gonna get slid behind some of the plastics over here. Now what's gonna be a little bit different is over here, you're gonna have to remove this little piece right there where we once fed that 8 mil into. And what's gonna happen is you're gonna feed this 10 mil that came with the oil catch can with the washer. It's gonna go through the plastic here, then it's going to go through this metal, and then it's going to go into that little pivot point on the catch can. Okay. Okay, and that's what's gonna hold that in place. I'm just gonna make sure that I get all of this under the plastics before we go any further. And then I'm gonna be able to tighten everything up.
Now at the bottom of the car is all assembled. The oil catch can is good to go. We need to remove this little bracket here, if you haven't done so already. Again, this is a T45, so this is gonna slip over onto the turbo. You're not really gonna be able to see this, but basically the best way to look at it is it gets mounted here, and then if you just basically take your hand, you'll be able to feel the bolt here and the bolt here. The big thing is when you're installing it, as you can see all these numbers are upside down, you wanna make sure that you install it that way so the flat part matches up with this flat part. If you do it like this, it's not the right way and it's not gonna work and it's gonna give you a lot of hassle. So with that, I'm just gonna we'll do some B-roll over it since you can't really see what I'm doing anyway. I'm going to install this and torque it down.
All right, so now that support brace is done, I'm gonna start reinstalling all of our T30s for the coolant and the oil lines. And remember, these get torqued down to 8 Newton meters.
All right, so at this point, I just have a couple of these T30s we need to get in. So basically what you wanna do is just follow what we did in the reverse order, put all those back in. Sometimes they're a little bit tedious to line up. And yeah, torque them all down to 8 Newton meters. All right, so at this point, all the lines are torqued down. There's a line, our coolant line we need to reconnect here. Again, just push that C-clip in and then that'll snap into place. Make sure that you have easy access to everything. So we need to take this now, this line, and we need to put it down here. And what we're going to do now is we are going to install an inlet. However, after looking at the stock inlet and after looking at an FTP one we had in the shop, we decided we're gonna go with the FTP one because it deletes a lot of the muffling, so you're gonna get the most turbo sounds out of this new FTP pipe. Now, while we were doing everything, we decided that it was a good idea to put an FTP inlet on. So the factory inlet is big, it's kind of funky for airflow, and these things right here are actually mufflers. If you look in, you'll see all these little holes, and what it's supposed to do is reduce the noise of the turbo. But we don't want that. We put a big turbo in, we want to hear it sing. So we're gonna install an FTP inlet. So what I did here is I put the coupler on, and you make sure that you have the C-clamp all the way on. We're gonna slide this on, and you're gonna hear it clip into place, okay? Just like that. And I'm gonna rock this out of the way for now. All right, so then we're going to take this connection here, and again, make sure you have that C-clip down, then you can slide it on, and that'll clip into place. So I felt it, you probably couldn't hear it. That is rock solid. And take this guy, make sure that clips on good. Then you go up here, make sure that clips on good. Then I'm gonna take this, that gets clipped here, and then if you look down here, slides on, then you lock it in place. Now you are going to have this connection. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna zip tie it right here. This is for your PCV valve heater, which gets deleted with the pure turbo. All right, so now we can put the charge pipe back in up top here. And these are T30s again. Now you can take your stock air box, make sure that all of this is lined up, make sure your air duct's lined up, make sure that these two are lined up, and then you can kind of rock this over like that. And now that that coupler's on, you can just slide it over. All right, so now what you can do is tighten up your hose clamp. The big one goes on the intake side, and the small one goes over here. And then don't forget your PCV connection down here. It's gonna be a little bit tight to get to. You just wanna work it on. Okay, plug in your mass airflow sensor. And really the last thing we have to do, we already did the lower oil line. We double checked all of our oil lines, made sure that everything was good. We really just have to do a coolant flush, and we are ready to start the car. Okay, and with that, that is how to install a Pure 800 turbo, a MISHIMOTO Oil Catch Can, and also an FTP inlet. Now, we are not done with this car yet today. That's why we haven't put the motor cover on. What we're gonna do now is we're going to do an oil change. Every time we do a turbo, we like to do a fresh oil change. And then we're also getting the spark plugs ready. We're gonna do some spark plugs after this, so be sure to check out those two videos that are gonna come after this. And then after that, the third video after this, we're doing an Accutech tune on this car. We're gonna put it on the dyno, and it is gonna be insane, so be sure to check out that video. So once again, my name is Brian. If you're interested in any of the parts or tools we use in today's video, be sure to see the links in the description. If you like today's video, give us a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe, and check us out at KiesMotorsports.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.